Yo, what's going on, Hoops Tribe? I'm here with someone who I call a friend, someone you may know in these WNBA, NCAA online streets. They are well versed in all things women's basketball. We're hoping to open up a conversation on the Aces and the Mystics today. I'm here with Deadria. How you feeling?
I'm feeling all right. How you doing today?
I'm feeling great. Thank you for even having this conversation, taking out some time on your Sunday to talk hoops with me.
Hey, I'm excited about this. I'm glad that we finally, got this out of the group chat and that we're sitting down to do this.
Yes, in the group chat, if you're not familiar, is Threads because everybody's cousins on Threads, okay? That's how we got this relationship started.
Yeah.
So with you being a Washington, D.C. native, let's talk about the Mystics. How you feeling about Sydney Johnson, this new hire?
So I actually like Sidney Johnson a lot. His coaching style impressed me during the AmeriCup competition that happened back in December. I noticed he does a lot of inside out play, just like several of the other coaches. But he also seems like a very encouraging coach. From what I've heard the players just talk about him, he's very positive. He doesn't get too down on them, and he's very encouraging of them to play through their mistakes. So I'm really excited, especially because of the fact we have such a young core this
Yes.
season. They're gonna need a coach like that. They're gonna need a coach that's gonna say to them, "Hey, you're making a few mistakes, but we're going to play through it. This is what you have to do to change a little bit of things." And with his background in player development, I think that's going to help us out a lot too.
I love that trend that we're seeing in the W now with coaches who come from a player development background because I think that's super important not only with the younger players, really with some of the vets, because everybody can develop. If you're still playing basketball, there's ways that you can develop your game. You should always be a student and growing. What interests me the most about Sydney Johnson is the Princeton background. And anybody in hoops, you hear a lot about Princeton basketball. And that's fast paced. The emphasis is pace. The emphasis is moving the ball around. It's team play. So when I look at this Mystics roster, like you said, they're really young. I don't really know who's going to be the star, the standout for this team right now. So I think having that team approach is going to be vital. Uh, with that said, I'm interested to see because I don't have a lot of I haven't watched Sidney Johnson's, so I don't have a real consensus of what he's going to be able to do other than what I've read about him online. So I'm just excited to see that. I'm a fan of Princeton offense. I'm a fan of a lot of ball movement. I think that the WNBA game needs a little bit more of that complex action going on. So,
Facts.
that's what we're about to see. And we got some shooters on the Mystics.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think also ball movement was a huge advantage last season for the Mystics when they won games or when they were able to come back from down leads. It's because they had ball movement, right? They picked the right shots instead of just settling for a shot right away. So I think with having PG like Amoore coming in, definitely going to help. Definitely going to have a lot of ball movement with her and a lot of nice assists. She plays with pace. Slim plays with pace. Jade Melvin plays with pace. Like, we got a lot of young people that play with pace. And we got Aaliyah Edwards, who literally just came off of a wonderful season in Unrivaled, right? To come into this league as a rookie and then your off season, you are runner up in a 1v1 competition with one of the best fours in the league, aside from Asia Wilson, of course. Like, gotta put that in there because I don't want people coming for me. I love Asia.
Right.
Um, but I think that shows that we haven't even seen even an ounce of what she can do. And that was my frustration last season. I knew Aaliyah was good. And if she was utilized properly, we'd be, we would have had a little better of a season than we did.
So let's talk about that because you bring up last season, and it's funny that you said when we won games because you didn't win a lot, but you were very close. And that's the thing with the Mystics and the Sparks, they were just competitive all season, right? Like a lot of the games were really close. They were competitive with the best teams in the league. They just, for some reason, could not get over that hump. Very similar to the Sparks. It was something in that second half that they couldn't just bring the game together. So, how do you feel moving forward? Because the roster got dismantled a little bit, a little movement. So do you think it's going to be that same level of competitiveness? how are you feeling about these games compared to last season?
So I'm more optimistic. Uh, I am more optimistic for this season than I was last season.
Ah,
But the biggest thing it's going to hinge on is injuries. If we can stay healthy, that's a huge part of it. Um, what I noticed a lot from the games last season, it was 50-50, right? It was coaching, and then it was a little bit of players getting stuck on plays. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of times I would see that if the first option that they wanted to go with was blocked. Let's say they had a really good defender on them, they couldn't get the ball there. They were kind of stuck. They didn't know who to go to next, right, to get that bucket, or who to go to create their own shot. And the one person, I'm not going to say one person, the two people on that team that are really, really good at creating their own shots were Ariel and Slim. They're very good at creating their own shots. So if both of them were on the bench, if Shakira was in, sure, we can give it to Shakira. She'll create her own shot in the paint, or she'll bully down and get her shot going. But when they're not in there, we don't really have an option. And Aaliyah wasn't given the ball to give her that option to make it. And I think she was playing a little timid. And I think after Unrivaled, she has no reason to play timid now, and she can be free and unleash the inner Lily that we know that she's got there.
I'm really interested to see how the unrivaled like confidence boost translate in the WNBA because like you said, that 1v1 tournament, it just shows you how different 1v1 is from team play, but how necessary that element is to basketball because there's a lot of 1v1 moments in the game and it's a lot of 3-on-3 moments in the game too. So it's like they got to work on those soft skills during the
Yeah.
off season. One thing that I saw with Sydney Johnson is that he's adaptable. Now, I think that's great because a lot of coaches are fixed, and it kind of speaks to your point where they got the ball in certain plays after if the play was a bust, then what would they do next, right? So I'm very interested to see how much he'll unleash players just doing their own thing because Slim is a great 1v1 player. I think Shakira Austin is a great 1v1 player as well in the post.
Yeah.
And then moving to coaching style, something that we don't really hear a lot about is who the coaches bring in to train the players, right? Because we speak to a lot of injuries that the Mystics had last season, and a lot of that to me, when I see players getting injured a lot, I attribute that to coaching as well because who's on staff. So we
Yep.
don't get a lot of those notifications. Do you know like who's in that training facility with DC?
Yeah, so let me pull it up. They actually listed every single member of their coaching staff on their Instagram. Some of the names I'm a little familiar with, some of them I'm not really that familiar with. So give me 1 second to pull it up and I could tell you. All right, so we have Clinton Crouch for player development. He most recently was at the Southern Coast Academy as well as Georgetown University. Those are his two most recent player assistant coaching and director of head coaching. And then he was with the Mystics back in 2010 as well.
Okay.
So that's their new player development. We have Barbara Turner, who was with the South Bay Lakers and the Atlanta Dream last season. And I think she actually did a pretty decent job with the Atlanta Dream in their player development because she helped Jordan Canada come back
Okay.
after her wrist injury. And then, last but not least, we added Jennifer Miller, who was with the Fever last season, which that's staff last season with them. I just feel like Christy Sides didn't let her assistants have that much input, and it was kind of like
Interesting.
her way or
What brings you to
no.
that? What brings you to
So
that thought?
what brings me to that thought is there's a lot of times where had they fed AB a little bit more, they could have gotten some more point productions. And I saw a lot of the coaches on their sideline were yelling and pointing to where the players should be and go. But then, for example, Caitlin didn't run a play last season that Christy wanted. And after they scored, Christy pulled her. She called a timeout, pulled Caitlin, put in Erica Wheeler instead. And seeing that, there's not that much trust there, right? You're saying you got to do it my way, even though it's not working. And I feel like there has to be a little bit of that freedom that if the play is not working, to allow your player to create something else that might work instead.
Right. I
So
love
yeah,
that. I didn't
yeah.
I, I didn't even notice that. Do you know what game that was?
It was one of the earlier games before the All Star break. I want
Okay.
to say it was like a May or June game
Okay.
that happened. Yeah.
That's
It,
interesting.
yeah, she immediately just pulled her and sat her on the bench. I was like, man, she made a good play. She made a good decision there. Like, why are we pulling players for that? But I get it. I get why she pulled her, but you know.
Right, yeah, because there's a fine line between like discipline and then just letting the game happen organically, you know? Like, I understand we need to have discipline, but I also believe that we need to have autonomy because it's a game and like the players know what they're doing. Like, they're pros at this point. We have to trust them.
Right, right. And even someone like Cece herself, she's got the basketball IQ, right?
Right.
So she knows what angle she's going to throw the pass at to make it work. So I would let her play a little free with that. But we can't be pulling up for a three when we got 22 seconds on the clock. So,
Yeah, it's a balance.
yeah. But
Yeah.
but yeah.
So moving to training camp and some of the rooks. So the Mystics got 5 overall picks. That was pretty big. They probably won the draft if there was a competition with that. So they have Sonia Citron, Kiki Iriafen, Georgia Amoore, Lucy Olson, and Zay Green. How you feeling about those rooks?
So I was very, very excited all of the rounds because Sonia, great 3 and D player, can get you a bucket, can knock down the three when needed. But most importantly, for someone of her age, she's very level headed when she's playing on the court. I have never seen like outbursts from her or anything. You cannot tell what is going on her face at all. She doesn't let you see it. Um, but she also does little things on the court. She'll get deflections. She'll run in there for the rebounds. And I think a lot of her game is what, to the average viewer, it's not offensively flashy.
Right.
So they may not notice the other things that she does that makes a difference. But even her spacing is good. She knows when to cut. She knows how to maneuver to get her shot in the way that she needs to get it. And if her shot's not falling, she's gonna give you great effort on the defensive end, which I really enjoy about her. She
That's
was one of my
probably
favorite.
what I like the most about her, like her ability to space the floor and her defensive
Yeah,
mindset.
yeah, she was one of my favorite players to watch at Notre Dame this past season because I was like, man, she reminds me in a sense of, say, um, Atkins or Copper, who they will get you a bucket, but if they're not falling, they're going to give you that intensity. They're going to bring that pressure to try to force the ball or like make the team second guess the shot that they're going to take. Um, with Kiki, I like Kiki. I do. I think that Kiki can be a very versatile player. I would love to see her move to the three versus playing the traditional four this season. I
I think she's
think
gonna have to.
right, right. I can't see her playing the four, going up against Fee, going up against Stewie, going up against Asia, like DB. I just don't see it working for her. Like I think they're gonna have to move her to the three, and I think she's gonna be a three coming off of the bench too.
Yeah, I definitely
Yeah,
I love the small. That's my favorite position, and I think that that's really what she played like in college, but it's just like her size put her in that four, and that's
yeah,
the downfall of playing like when you're young. Like when you're young, you kind of get away with things like you feel taller or you feel bigger than what you actually are in the younger years of playing, and then when you get with the adults, you're like, I'm actually not as big as I thought.
right.
But it's not all about, for me, my personal opinion. I've argued with people online about this all the time now because I didn't know it was so controversial. But like height in the women's game doesn't matter as much. And I'm going to contradict myself later, so just remember that I said that. Height
Okay,
doesn't matter as much in the women's game if it just depends on the player, right? Because I feel like our limbs can give us a lot of extra. You know, like if you have a
Yep.
long wingspan, then you can defend someone taller than you. So I actually think that Kiki can defend Fee. She can. DB's probably she has a little more size advantage, but I feel like she can defend those players pretty fine. I think it's just gonna take some time. So I think that she probably is gonna be that three, but I wouldn't doubt if they keep her at that four because I think that she can do it. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I think if they go with us, if they go with say Shakira at the five instead of Steph, or if they have a lineup where Sika is at the five, I think then yeah, Kiki has a little bit more flexibility to maneuver over to the three position or the four position. I I have faith in Kiki defending 1 through 4. I really do have faith in her defending 1 through 4 because we saw a little bit of her defense in college, but the one thing about training camp, that's going to force you to work on your defense. That's going to force you to get better because you're going to get tired of getting beat defensively all season. So you either change and get better, or you just say, all right, whatever else I have to do to make it work. But I feel like she has the work ethic and the mindset of someone that's going to be like, no, I'm going to come out here and defend my ass off and make sure that I am doing the best I can to contest these shots.
That's what all the rooks are going to have to do. I think, regardless of how they play offensively, they all have to defend their ass off, which brings me to Georgia Amoore. Now, what I just said, I was like, well, height doesn't matter so much in the women's game. Georgia Amoore is on the very small side. Now, when I say height doesn't matter as much, I'm really talking about 5'7" and up. You know, because 5'7" can get away with defending a 6 foot. I think that there's room in that. But 5'4" for me, you just have to be tremendous to really play at this level. And while I think that she's an explosive offensive player, I don't know how well she's going to be able to defend the guards in the W. Like, she's going to have to show me because right now I'm not confident in it. I know that she's big ticket basketball. Like, she has a very popular name. She has a big fan base. She was in Kelsey Plum's dog camp. So we know that the ability is there, but I'm just not super confident in it. How do you feel about it?
So yeah, baby Nash, baby Steve Nash, as I call her lovingly. I do think defense is going to be an issue with her. I do think that that's going to be a problem, and I do think that's going to come out in the very first couple of games. But that's also my reason for not starting her, is because her defense is not quite there, and I feel like she's going to get blown by a lot
Right.
with a lot of these players that she's going up against. And when you look at the kind of height of the point guard within the W, we're getting to like 5'11", 6 foot and above, right?
Exactly.
So I'm imagining it's going to be an Erica Wheeler defending Camila Cardoso last year situation where she just like grabbed her by the stomach. Like, Georgia's going to have to either box out like hell or use her body in a way to defend these taller guards.
Off the top of your head, do you remember a guard of her size excelling in the WNBA?
Oh. I mean, the only one that comes to mind is Dawn, right? Because Dawn was a shorter guard. That's really it. I can't.
How tall is Becky?
Oh, Becky too? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Becky. Hold on, I'm gonna look that up. Because, all right, let's see. How tall is. And I'm gonna start calling her Becky again once the season starts.
What are you calling her right
Uh,
now?
I was calling her Rebecca. It was Rebecca Lynn for a while, but now it's Becky. Uh, 5'6" is how tall Becky is.
Okay, so she's right in that range for me.
Yeah, yeah. And Becky was a tough defender, man. Like,
But I don't think Georgia doesn't have that. Like, she doesn't have that same intensity on defense as I feel like she would need to really compete.
and she's got to be scrappy, right? She's got to get in there. She's got to show her effort. She's gonna have to want it more than the others because it's gonna be an issue. And I foresee Sydney giving her like a couple of plays to defend, and if she doesn't pick it up, pulling her. and throwing Jade in because one thing about Jade Melbourne can defend for her height. And it's because she learned how to defend from Slim. That's one of the things they mentioned last season when she picked up a lot and picked Slim's mind on defense and how to do it. Because Slim is one hell of a defender. And surprisingly, that came from Latricia Trammell teaching Slim in this when she was in LA, which the wings, man, the wings.
Fond memories. Latricia Trammell.
What y'all
I
doing?
hope that she can find a place because I actually liked her, even though she was on the struggle bus.
Yep.
I just really like her as a person, and I really want to see her land somewhere.
Yeah, and you know what? Every time that they interviewed her in those games, she was just she was like, yeah, we got to work on this. We got to work on that. We're pulling it together. We're going to get it done. And no one said a bad word about her. Anyone from the Sparks, from, the Wings, no one has said a bad word about her as a coach. They've all appreciated her coaching style and what she can do.
Just
I
good
just think she
vibes.
had, and I feel like that says a lot about you as a coach.
So quick. It doesn't have to be necessarily quick though. The probability, which rookies are getting cut?
Ooh, okay. So, of the Mystics, it's either going to be Lucy Olson or Zay Green. Unfortunately, one of those two going to get cut because right now they're all in. They are all in on Georgia. They're all in on Sonia, especially, and they seem to be all in on Kiki. So I think it's between Lucy and Zay to fight for that bench guard position.
They have the
Um,
full 18, right? Like, let me look at how many are on this roster
one,
one.
17.
17. They might have to cut more than they might have to cut both of them.
They might. They might have to. They might have to cut both of them. My other thing was if Suge isn't explosive and if Suge isn't good on defense, she might go too. And
She's for me, she's a definite cut. I don't see
yeah,
her staying. Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. I was like, I just don't see it fitting. And even last season, her best game was against Phoenix when they came back. And it was the second half of the season. That was one of her better games. But what she gave us on the floor a lot of times is a lot of turnovers, a lot of unnecessary fouls. That's why I don't think that she has a good chance of making it, unfortunately, through this training camp.
Same Z's. I'm giving the same rookies the cut. I'll go with Zay Green and Lucy Olson with me not being surprised if Georgia Amoore is also cut. I really think that
Ooh,
Sonia Citron has a place in the W with
yeah,
this roster. But honestly, Georgia and Sonia might get this first year out. And even if they get cut, they can always get brought back. We seen
oh,
that happen.
100%.
So
Oh, yeah.
off the top, I'm in agreement. Lucy Olson, Zay Green with the probable Georgia Amoore.
Yeah, yeah, I can see it going that way. And also thinking about it, like, as much as I love Georgia's game, Jade Melvin's going to be a good point guard in this league. Like, once she gets it going, and once she gets it going, they have a little bit more. She's going to be great.
Absolutely. So jumping ahead, playoff predictions. Are the Mystics making the playoffs?
So we got one or two things that can happen. One, they get right at that last playoff spot, like Atlanta did last season, and they get swept in the first round. Or two, they just miss out on playoffs. That's what I think their potential is. Do I think they're going to be a high seed? No, absolutely not. I don't think we're going to be a high seed. I only say that is because the returning players that we have, we got rid of our really, really good shooters, and we added a couple of good shooters within the rookies. But the production that those rookies have, as well as the learning curve that they're going to have, that's not going to help us as much as, say, Carly or Ariel or even Shatori that we didn't sign back. Those were and Julie Vanloo, those were our shooters. Those are the people that got us buckets, that got us our main points. So I think we might just miss it, but I do think we have a good chance of retaining a lot more players to the next season.
I'm in full agreement with that whole sentiment. You just brought up a soft spot. I'm gonna miss Julie Vanloo on the Mystics, but I know that she's gonna show out with the Valkyrie. I'm really shocked that they let her go. Like, to be honest, I would have kept Julie over Jade, but that's just my personal preference.
Yeah, so based on what the owner was saying about building through the draft, having a young core, being basically building the team like the Wizards, I had a feeling that Julie was going to go because she was 31, right? And that's
Boo.
one of my issues with the W is ageism, right? It really is an issue. Like, because when you have a DT that's 42 playing the way she was playing, I don't think we should discount people's age or
Right.
use that against them, you know? And then when they got rid of Ariel, when they got rid of Carly, I was like, okay, those are our mid 20s sort of players. I was like, oh, okay, you want to keep two vets that are in their 30s and then have the rest everyone around them be young so that they can learn from people who are skilled and experienced. I get it, but like, can we have a little bit more than two vets in our locker room to kind of help, you know?
I can see if like Julie was showing any signs of 31, but to be honest, she was still playing at a very high level and she's been playing internationally and I don't think she has any major injuries. So I think it's just what you said, ageism, but it really doesn't have a place in all situations. Like sometimes I can get it. And even with DT, she was playing at a high level, but I could see that she was feeling it. Like I know that she has sciatica. She was feeling in her back. Every time she sat on the bench, she put on a brace. So I can see the wear and tear in like in that way, but performance, Julie Vanloo was still one of the top performers.
Exactly. And there were so many games that she bailed us out by hitting timely threes. I remember who literally sending the game into overtime against Connecticut. And it was because Van Leeuwen Atkins stepped up. Like, so yeah, I was bummed when I saw that. I was like, really? That's who we giving up during the draft? Okay, y'all.
It shocked me. Complete shock. But the only good thing I can say about that mindset is hopefully they keep this team because what we're seeing a lot, especially with the CBA coming up, is a lot of movement in the WNBA. And while I'm a fan of players, I know that some people want to be fans of franchises. So you can't really stay a fan of a franchise if you're trading out players like every year or every 2 years. So what I'm hoping with that mindset is that they keep this, they allow these rookies to grow and the Mystics become one of this powerhouse programs and they're here to stay for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed. Listen, I'm gonna be at all the games regardless because those season tickets are paid for. But I do have hope. I have hope in this young core, and I have hope that if we can keep them together, we're going to be good. I do have the hope.
So moving on to the Aces, they didn't get a lot of picks in the draft. They had the whole thing where they had to give up one of the picks due to Becky Hammon and Dearica Hamby situation. But they did make away with Harmony Turner, and then they ended up signing Deja Kelly, and then they also have Aaliyah Nye. How are you feeling about those rooks?
So I really, really like Aaliyah and Harmony. Deja Kelly, she's a great player. She can definitely get you a bucket when needed. Um, but her decision making for me during the tournament wasn't always, the best. I get why a lot of people want her on their team. She's very explosive. She can do what she can do, but of those three rookies, for me, it's down to Aaliyah and Harmony in terms of making that roster. If one of them were to make it, it really depends on what Becky's looking for this season. Are we focused more on offense or are we focused more on defense? That's what's going to come down to.
I
No,
know, no, I know. I'm laughing just because what does Becky want? Like, I never know. Like, what does she want?
what listen, I love me some Becky, but I don't know what's happening right now or what's going on.
They're like the Browns, right? Like they have so many guards. Like the Browns have so many QBs. And it's so funny how that parallels because guards are basically QBs. And it brings me to your Deja Kelly point with the decision making. I don't see her as a strong, you know, distributor, and that's
Yeah.
what the Aces need. And even though they need that, I don't think they accomplished getting that done. It's like, are we watching the same games? I've been saying that since last season. Like when Chelsea
Yep.
Gray was still recovering, who was going to distribute the ball? They had a lot of shooting guards. They still
Yep.
have a lot of shooting guards, which is why I didn't understand the Jewel Lloyd move, other than, Jewel Lloyd wanted to leave Seattle and it's like, you can't really pass her up. But what are you
Right.
going to do with Jewel and Jackie? Like they're the same
Yeah.
to me, they're the same player.
Yep. Yep. And also, I don't think that Jackie takes a back seat for Jewel to be, the third option. I don't think that happens. I don't see it happening. I see it being, say, Asia, Chelsea, and Jackie being your main options, and Jewel maybe being the fourth option, right? Depending on who's in. I don't see it.
I see it being a struggle. Like,
Yeah,
and the thing about it is when I say that they're the same player, I mean it all the way down to their temperament in a way. Like, neither one of them are like really strong vocally on the court. I would call them a little passive, even though I think that Jewel Lloyd has that instinct to really take over a game a little bit more than Jackie does. I'm very interested to see with Jewel coming into a new space with all of these superstars and knowing that they have this tight knit group, like what is going to be her attitude, moving into that. And I only use attitude as a lack of better words.
yeah.
I'm not meaning it like, she has attitude. You got to be careful when you talk about women and like people just
Listen,
assume that I'm being messy. I'm not trying to be messy,
they
guys.
gonna they gonna come for you. They gonna come for you with that.
Yeah, they're gonna
Jewel
come for
got
you.
Jewel got some stands. She got some stands out there. They gonna come for you.
I'm sorry, Jewel Mamba, Gold Mamba Hive. I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. I just mean that I don't know how she responds in a situation where, the Aces might be loyal to Jackie Young because they have that rapport. And like you said, I don't see Jewel Lloyd coming before Jackie in that hierarchy.
Yeah, so I think for Jewel, it's gonna be a lot of passes. It's gonna be a lot of maybe corner threes if she can knock them down, maybe some straight on threes. Whereas Jackie's gonna get to that mid range. She's gonna hit her three. She's gonna go in for the layups. Like I think that's gonna be the option, and especially because coming off of rehabbing from Unrivaled, Jackie might be a little bit better than we think, right? Or it could be she's still finding her footing because she's coming back from that injury. I don't know. I don't see Jewel being the option before her. I can't see it.
I'm glad you brought up the injury because honestly, I almost forgot about the injury. Well, obviously, I did forget about the injury, and I still didn't. We don't even know what the injury was or is. So it's like, is she back from the injury? Because she still kind of got hurt again during Unrivaled.
Yeah. And then during the last couple of games, that's when she really went off and was playing a little bit better, right? During those two games. And that was after a trip to Vegas to see the trainers and the support staff there that I think really got her right. So I don't know. I do think people are underestimating the Aces because healthy Chelsea Gray. Healthy Chelsea Gray. You can't count against a healthy Chelsea Gray. We saw it during Unrivaled when like she really got herself together, got it together, and was
It was
just
unreal.
right, right. There were so many shots during the weekend that we were down there that I just sat there in disbelief and I was like, how?
She's not gonna
How
make
did
that.
we
She's
make
not gonna
that?
make that. Oh my gosh, she
Right,
made that.
right, right,
Like,
right. Or like the passes, I was like, oh no, that's not gonna. What, she just threw it over the back of her head and they got it? Like,
it's insane, like literally. So, yeah, you're right. You can't count the aces out with, when they have a player like Chelsea Gray. Moving to the rookies, the rookie that I like the most, and I say that because I'm more familiar with their game, it would be Harmony Turner. I feel like she has the better odds out of the others, but I don't know if any of them make it because they're all guards for the most part, right? Like,
yeah, yep,
yes.
yep, yeah.
So,
The only,
no, what
yeah,
were you saying?
I would say the only rookie that's not a guard that I think is definitely going to make it is Kitley, because they've invested so much time and effort into Kitley. And Kitley's been practicing a lot. So that learning curve's not really going to be there for her. It won't be as extensive as it's just going to be with the guards.
So that's where we kind of differ because for me, I feel like Kitley's gonna make the roster because of what they've invested in, also because she doesn't have much competition in her position. But I just don't know because it's been such a long time. She's playing one of the harder positions in the W. I have to see it. Like I
Yeah,
want to see
yeah,
I want to see what it looks like because I'm not 100% sold that she's going to be able to contribute the way that we want her to. I would have loved for the Aces to go out and get another power forward, to get another center because I want someone who's more experienced to help out Asia. Asia had to do so much and put a lot on her back last season. And I just know that that's not healthy. It's not healthy
no.
mentally, and it's definitely not healthy physically. And it looks like the Aces have a really strong training room, but the body can only take so much. So I want to see Asia get some help down there in the post so she can have a true high-low situation when it comes to offense. She had help defensively with Kia Stokes is a great defender, but
Absolutely.
Kia Stokes is averaging less than 1 point. So she's not
Yeah.
able to play both ends. And I don't even understand the contract. Well, I guess the contract extension comes from the defense, right? And
Yep.
defense
Yep.
wins games, but offense wins games too. And so
Yep.
it's
Yep.
like we need a balance, which is why I wanted the Aces to get Tina Charles, but they went out and
Hmm.
got Cheyenne Parker Tyus. And we don't know how long they're gonna have CPT because she's pregnant and she was working
Yep.
out, but she's like 4 months, right?
Yep. Yep. They said she's due in June. Actually, so she's not 4 months. She's more. They said she's due in June, which she doesn't look like she's due in June though. So I don't know, man. Like those the videos of her working out, she does not look that much far along, but I don't know
I don't trust
what is
social media
happening there.
anymore. Ever since Malaysia Fulali lied to us, like I don't know. Like those videos could have been from a long time ago. Like we don't even know for real like what's happening in Vegas. So it's like
Yeah.
I would have wanted someone who's gonna really give Asia some help. And I feel like Tina Charles would have been a better option because offensively she's sound. Tina can shoot from
Yep.
all three levels, and she's a good
Yeah.
defender.
Yeah. Tina was knocking out threes in Turkey. Okay. When I watched those games, I was like, Tina Charles did not just hit a three. Oh, she hit another one? What is happening right
She was
now?
doing it in Atlanta. Like if you saw like the picture from like the playoffs, Tina Charles looked like that Kobe Bryant picture where he was like wrapped up in hella ice because
Yes.
she put Atlanta on her back so many times. And I just wanted her to be with the Aces so bad. But that's gone. She's not there. She's in Connecticut. So with that said, like with Becky Hammon's coaching style, like what do you feel about from training camp to playoff predictions?
Yeah, so I mean, with her coaching style, ultimately, I want Crystal Bradford to make that team so bad. I think that Crystal Bradford can give height on the perimeter, and which she's gonna knock down the three. She's gonna hit her mid range. I feel like she could be a nice substitute for offensive production when Chelsea's on the bench, when she's resting after being taken out. Um, I want Queen or Meg to also make the roster with the caveat of Becky's got to trust them, Becky's got to use them, and she's got to play them. We cannot have another season of, oh, I'm gonna bring this person in, but you gonna sit on the bench for your entire contract. Because what are we doing? Because if you see Asia is tired, pull her out and give someone else a chance. I remember playoffs, we were screaming for her to use Meg during the series against NY. She gave Meg a shot, and what happened? Meg was there defensively. Meg was making plays. Meg was catching shots from Chelsea. Like, I didn't understand the lack of use of Meg. And I'm not gonna say I don't understand because she did kind of insinuate that Meg was slow, but but Olympic Meg, when we saw what happens when plays are run for Meg, when Meg is like that primary option off when she's in. And I don't see any reason why, if we have her off the bench, why she can't be a primary option. Like, she's capable of doing it. And
I'm with you.
that's why I want that's why I prefer Meg over Kia, is because Meg can get it done on both ends. Meg does a lot of little things on. She creates deflections, right? She'll break up passing lanes. She has the effort there. It is there with her, and but it's just the trust. I don't want someone who's just going to sit on the bench again and not be trusted to play, because we saw it's not going to help us. It's not going to work.
Right. I'm with you. That New York, that series, like, it just got my heart going. And I can understand the argument of the bench being inconsistent. But I
Mm-hmm.
also think that it's a lot easier to be inconsistent when you're not playing consistently. So it's like a double-edged sword. Like, you have to play more to be consistent. And in order to
Yep.
play more, then the playing time has to be consistent. Like, Becky is one of those, like, I made a joke, just the other day because someone was like, I can't wait till the WNBA extends the roster spots to like 15. And I'm like, but the coaches are still just going to play 7 players. And that's Becky
Yep.
is, she's queen of that.
Yep. Cheryl Reeve, also queen of that.
Yeah.
You had how many bigs on your bench that could have gone in there to help Fee, that could have helped Land when she got her back beat up and thrown on the ground? Like,
Yeah.
you weren't using Dorka, you weren't using Diamond, you weren't using Peely. Like, even if you needed just a defensive stop, let's say you weren't worried about a bucket, but you wanted to free up your other options, you could have thrown one of them in for a defensive stop. Like,
That's what I do
that's,
admire. This is NCAA, but I do admire Kim Caldwell for doing that, hockey style
yeah,
subs because it's like, play the whole bench. At this
yeah,
level, they're skilled enough. Like, everyone should be skilled enough to hold their own for at least, like, give me a strong 5 minutes. Give me a strong, if
yes,
5 minutes is too long, give me a strong 2-3 minutes. I want to
right,
see it because I don't like leaving the game with what ifs. Like, if we're already not playing well or we're already down, what is it gonna hurt to play Queen Egbo? Like, what is it gonna hurt to
exactly,
play Meg if we're already down? And we just got to start throwing things to the wall and seeing if they stick.
right. And I'm remembering back to like I want to say it was a 2023 season where Queen was in DC, and Queen was doing things on the floor when she got in. She was doing what needed to be done. Even when the Sparks picked her up for a hardship contract last season, and she literally flew from wherever to New York, and they gave her a game where they gave her Carly Samuelson's old jersey and just like taped over the name on the back. She was in there hustling. Like, she was hustling. She was grabbing boards. She was trying to make plays and make shots. So, gotta give her a shot. You gotta give her
She's
a
that player
chance.
that's
Like,
gonna do that because she's been bounced around so much. She's trying to stay somewhere. Like,
yeah.
nobody wants to be that player that is just everywhere. Like Monique Billings. Like, but Monique
Yes.
wants a home. Queen Egbo wants a home. I think when she gets on the court, she proves that, and that's the type of player that you want. But we have to use our tools.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, controversial question. And I say controversial question because we both like the Chicago Sky. So you know where I'm going with this. My good girl, one leg floater, Dana Evans.
Ah,
All right. What are your thoughts? I'm gonna let you go first on this one. What are your thoughts on it?
I feel like Dana Evans has she has a high ceiling that we haven't seen. The only thing about her ceiling is that it's controlled by her attitude. And I'm intentional with the word attitude in this situation. It's not for a lack of better words. I
Right,
think
right.
that Dana's performance in the last season in Chicago was enough for me to be questionable with her moving forward because if you don't like your situation, you're not going to give us, all that you got. And I think that that's what happened. Like, I feel like she
Yeah.
didn't like her situation. So she didn't give Chicago all that she had consistently. There might have been games here and there where Dana showed us Louisville Dana, but it wasn't consistent and it's very moody. So I don't know what she's gonna give. I don't trust her. Just to put it, I don't trust Dana. I know that she's skilled. She's a smaller guard.
Yeah.
She has the ability to fill that void of what Kelsey Plum did. For
Hmm.
being that small guard, having a little range. She is a decent 3-point shooter. She can knock down.
Yeah.
She could be a spark off of the bench, but it's like if she doesn't, is she gonna like Vegas? Like, is she gonna like? Because Becky Hammon is a tough coach. Like, if she wasn't fond of Teaspoon, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if she wasn't a fan of Teaspoon's like rotations or what was the real issue. I'm just going based off of what her manager put out on X, and it just sounded
Okay.
like they didn't like the rotations. They didn't like how she was used. So Becky has a habit of not playing people. So how is she gonna like that? How is she gonna, perform if she's only getting like Sydney Colson minutes? It takes a strong
Yeah.
player to deal with that.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. And I think the biggest thing that I saw last season with her is when Kennedy came in and took that starting spot, she was out to prove something. But what she was trying to prove wasn't showing. It really wasn't showing for us. I mean, the erratic passes, the I'm just going to drive into the paint, even though the paint is clouded and I'm going to get my shot blocked. The not running the play, not giving the ball to the proper handler, stuff like that
Crazy.
makes me weary about trusting you out there on the court. And we know Becky. Becky is not afraid to bench you for the entire season. She don't care. She does not care. Becky don't care that you pissed off. Becky don't care that your manager is on Twitter saying whatever. Becky don't give a shit about none of that. Becky cares about if you're going out there and you're producing and performing and not making too many mistakes. That's what she cares about. So I foresee like the first game of her off the bench making a mistake, Becky's gonna pull her and sit her back down. And to me, I wonder how much effort are you gonna give after the first time, right? The second time, even the third time. Because what, she only got one DMP last season, and that was a game that this guy actually won. Without her. So I feel like that what you said, that's going to be an issue. How is your attitude? Greg being on Twitter, I still to this day say that did not help her case. That
Oh
did not help
no.
her case at all. Because it really was given, yo, we can't trade her anywhere else. Becky, can you please just do me a favor and take her?
I will
Just,
not
right?
back. I will stay on that hill. I
Yeah.
definitely believe that that was a favor for a friend because nobody else wanted her, and I think that that was because of all of the actions that came. Some of the encore actions, but then the off court drama. Like no franchise wants
Right.
to deal with that.
Right. And then even me as like a fan just watching the post game press conferences and just seeing her demeanor and her attitude during those press conferences, she was very annoyed. She didn't want to be there. Like she didn't want to answer the questions. Like it was if it wasn't about her, she didn't care. And here's the thing. Say what you want about Angel and how she doesn't like doing media. Angel will never, ever give you that kind of demeanor during our post game press conference. Doesn't matter if they lost. Doesn't matter if they won. Doesn't matter if she had a good game or a bad game. She will always stand in a very neutral, position when it comes to these post game press conferences, which I feel like is very needed. Because when you're showing that you're displeased or showing that you don't want to be there, you kind of see, okay, if you're showing this to the media and the reporters, what are you showing to your coach? What is your coach seeing?
You remember
Yeah,
when
you got
Angel,
reduced minutes.
you remember Angel on the podcast was like people at halftime were on their phones. I'm like, who was that? I've been trying to figure it out since she said it. I have my thoughts, but I can only
Yeah,
speculate.
that floored me. I'm like, wait a minute. You know you got to win this game, but you on Twitter clapping back at somebody? It's like,
Crazy work.
you should be getting a snack. You should be rehydrating. You should be doing something. Get off your phone. Like,
Crazy work. So, with all of that said about the Aces roster, Do you think that this team is complete enough to make the playoffs?
So yes and no. Uh,
Do tell.
the reason yes and no, yes and no, because okay, here's my thing. Let's say we got Crystal, we have Harmony, and we have like Queen or Meg until CPT comes back. I think that'd give us enough on perimeter, mid range, and defense to get us to be a little bit above 500. But we're going to struggle a little bit because there's going to be times when Becky doesn't trust them and she's going to overplay Asia. She's going to overplay Chelsea. She's going to overplay Jackie. Um, when CPT comes back, I think that's going to provide a lot of movement for Asia to get her free to be able to make shots. I think, or if CPT is coming in for Asia, that's going to be a good like body that can get you down in the paint, get you a quick bucket. Do we make playoffs? I want to lean towards yes, but with the caveat that we're not going to be a high playoff seed. I think we're going to be in the middle. We're probably going to be a 5, 6, or 7 seed. I don't see us being a 4 seed or a 3 seed, quite frankly. I really don't. And I know that's controversial. I know people have been flipping out over these preseason rankings of we put the Fever before the Aces or we put the Aces before the Fever. Like, I think we're going to see a little bit what we saw last season. Like, yes, we're going to have a healthy Chelsea Gray back, and she's going to be great. She's going to be a difference maker. Yes, we're going to have a healthy Asia Wilson, but you still need someone outside of Asia, Chelsea, and Jackie that's going to step up and really fill the gaps, fill the roles, which is where I think Crystal Bradford can come in.
Athleticism alone is going to put the Aces in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up a good, scenario. Aces versus Fever. What is that going to look like? I personally, that one's going to be a tough game. I feel like that's
Yep.
probably going to be one of the better games of the season because the Aces have so much experience, so much athleticism. I think they're still missing some things post wise, but honestly, Becky really has a adaptable coaching style. Like she takes a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things from the NBA, and I think if you move well without the ball, you can get points on the board. It might be difficult
Yep.
to defend down low, but I mean, you got Asia Wilson. She should have been
Yeah.
like the defensive player of the year. It's still an argument. I mean, Fee was a great selection. It could have gone
Yeah.
either way, to be honest. So you
Yeah.
got a defensive player of the year potential player down low. They'll be fine enough, even though she does still need help. I don't know. I think you're right about them being in the middle. They could be high middle, they could be 4 or 5, to be honest,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of teams are really figuring things out because all of the coaching movement, teams are going to have to adapt. Like, I feel like this season is going to be up and down. The only teams that are going to be solidified are the New York Liberty and the Minnesota Lynx, right? Because nothing
Oh
really
yeah.
happened to them. Yeah, is there another team that's similar to them that they didn't really? I think everybody else shook things up.
Yeah. Everyone else mostly shook things up because going into training camp before the drafts and before some of the trades, Liberty, Mystics, and Minnesota were returning the most players out of everyone. They were returning the most. Um, I do think with Minnesota, you added Carly Samuelson, who her game against Phoenix when she got popped in the head and was perfect from three,
That was crazy.
like right, and that's a threat that they needed because if McBride's not shooting well and knocking down her threes, if Xander Lassini and Bridget Carlton are knocking down her threes, you need someone from the bench that can come in and hit those threes, right? So adding Carly was great. They reactivated Jessica Shepard, and they bring in Marion Baudin from France. So I think they're upgrading their post presence. They're getting Fee and Land help. They're adding sharp shooters. I don't see any reason why Minnesota doesn't have a good chance of being top. Liberty, you added Marine Johannes coming back. You added Beck Gardner,
I'm so annoyed
who
with that.
okay, all
She's
right,
too good. She's too
I
good, man.
know, I know. You added Marine, you added Beck. I still think that yes, they added a little bit of depth there, but I think not having Lainey Hamilton, Stewie's not fully practicing right now. They released an update, or one of the reporters released an update that she's doing light practices until next week. So the Stewie being healthy, Sabrina being healthy, and Lainey Hamilton being healthy are the three question marks I have for New York.
That's true.
If those three players can't really stay healthy and perform, I think New York struggles. I mean, repeats are hard as it is, but I think they struggle without those three.
They definitely struggle in the beginning of the season. It would probably be smart to really kind of tank the first half, just to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that they're, just play well enough to make sure you're placing and you don't get the toughest match, starting out. But they probably struggle in the first half of the season, but they probably come out just as strong as they were in the second half.
I definitely think so because they even got Lainey Hamilton back during the second half, right? And after her surgery, she was good to go for playoffs. And that playoff, she was the reason they won playoff game 3. Anyone that says anything different, I don't know what y'all were watching, what you weren't watching that game because Minnesota had no answer for her whatsoever. And kind of going back to Aces Fever, I think what's going to give the Aces a little bit of edge is the mid range game. Because right now, the Fever, they have one or two players that may hit a mid range, but that's not their bread and butter of what they do. And I think depending on what kind of defense Steph White decides to run, they got to defend that mid range. And last year, Connecticut had a hard time defending Courtney Williams when she would pick and pop a lot.
I'm interested. I know we're not talking about the Indiana Fever, but now you make me want to talk about the Indiana Fever and at least on the development side, because I'm very interested to see what Caitlin Clark really honed in on this offseason because the mid range is something that she needed. I think that towards
Yes.
this, in the second half of the season, she started to drive more, which is, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she can kind of get to the basket when she wants because she really has a quick first step after she does her, little shifty step back or crossover
Yeah.
like or hezzy or whatever it is. She can get to the rim. So I'm really interested to see if she's added that mid range and if she's added a stronger defensive presence to her game.
Yeah. So listen, I brought that up the other day, and you would have thought that I said that she was trash. Like the way I got crucified. God forbid I say that she needed to work on something. All the you hate her folks came out. But it's true though, right? Defense wasn't her strong suit. She does need to work on that. She did need to have more of a mid range game because a lot of the times they took away her lane to make a drive. So she had to add that floater. She has to have a mid range shot, or else it's not gonna be good. When they take away your three and you're up against a four like Asia, right? Or a five like JJ, you need something or some ability to get around them to still create your shot. And that's what I would like to see her work on more is creating her mid range. Like I think she can be a shot creator, but she's got to want to be a shot creator, right? She's got to have that dog mentality of I'm going to get my shot off no matter what.
Yeah, we're gonna see, man. Because now I'm just like, I hope they keep Bree Hall. Because I think
I
that Bree
know.
Hall has the ability to be a mid-range shooter because we see it. We've seen it a little bit on the college level, but that just wasn't, the game plan. But I think that she has it, and I just really want her to get that shot to prove it.
Yeah, so I saw a little clip of them running practice this morning. My comment was, if this is how we playing, y'all ain't gonna be good on defense again.
Oh, you talking about when Caitlin shot that three over like Jaylen Brown?
Yeah, and she was just like, I'm like, girl, get your hand up. What are we doing?
And Yeah, and that really bothered me, but I was like, maybe this was like, I can't judge from this one clip. Maybe this was the end of
Yeah,
practice. Maybe they were just playing around. I don't know the circumstances, but I was disappointed to see that clip. They could have kept that in the Rolodex. They could have kept that in the
right.
camera roll.
Yeah, and Jalen's such a good defender, which is why like I thought maybe she might have the edge to make the team over Bree, but Bree does have. I fell in love with Bree's game so much. Not even this past year, the year before, I fell in love with her
That
game.
was her better season. I think that was the best season of her college career.
Yeah, I really fell in love with her game because she is a guard that will give you 100% effort. She does not give up on a play either on both ends of the floor. So I really am pulling for her and I really want her to make it. Listen, they ain't cutting Sophie, but my vote would be cut Sophie and put Bree on instead, but that ain't happening. So
They gotta trade Sophie for something. I mean, they honestly still need some help in the mid range. They still need some help for Aaliyah Boston. They don't really have a
yep.
true center. They have some forwards, but Aaliyah Boston needs help unless, Stephanie White wants to run a different offense than what she did in Connecticut. But, I think they did a good job with the high low in Connecticut with
Yeah.
Brianna Jones and AT. So I wouldn't be surprised if she wants to recreate that. So if anything, they use Sophie Cunningham as some stock and get
Yep.
some, move that capital around and get what they need. But we're not talking
Yeah.
about Indiana this that's for another show.
Well,
Maybe we talk
that's next
about
show.
Indiana next. Maybe that's what we do.
Yeah, yeah. I think so. I think so. I think we're gonna have to get into it.
Man, it's so exciting. I'm sure we're about to hear about some cuts. We might be safe for this first week. Who knows? They
Yeah.
might not start making cuts until like right before preseason games. And then
Yeah.
we know immediately after, preseason games, they're going to make cuts because they have to have their roster finalized before May 16th. It's exciting, but it's also bittersweet. But I
Yeah.
appreciate you, taking the time to, just talk hoops with me. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We're definitely going to do this again. Drop some
Yep.
comments on what your thoughts were. If you want us to talk about whatever you want us to talk about next, make sure you drop that in the comments. And as always, let's talk hoops.